This is the Revved Up Sports Show with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? Here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
It's time once again for everybody to come aboard the...
Yep, it's about that time. It is Revved Up Monday. It is the Revved Up Sports Show coming to you from a chilly Texas. Not as cold as it has been in the past. However, we are off and rolling down south. It is showtime. Bobby Chaffee, Rodney Rodriguez up north. As we bring you in another program. Robert, you ready for a new week, my friend? Race season is here. Racing season is finally here.
Race season is here. A new month is here. Today's the first day of March, 2021. Surprisingly that it just kind of snuck up on everybody, but races have kicked off and race season is here. And now we get forward to the season of 2021, and who knows what that's going to entail. Hopefully be a lot of good racing, as we talked about many times on this program. 2020 taught us to not take these racing nights for granted, and I hope everybody pays attention to that and is more thankful and grateful of the racing action they get to attend and get to race at.
Hopefully you are checking in on the Facebook feed. Of course, remember you can always check in at RevvedUpSportsShow.com, RevvedUpSportsShow.tv, RealRaceTalk.com, RevvedUpRadio.com as we bring you all of the action each and every Monday right here as we break down the busy race weekends that we're starting to see. And again, like we talked about, I mean, this is really going to be the weekend where I know here in Texas we really get going. I mean, Florida's blowing and going, but 37, man, what a night we saw there. Before we do that, though, do want to recognize today is one of the most special birthdays. I think for a lot of people, maybe our age would probably be the demographic that this person, just one of the most beautiful people in the world. We wish a happy birthday to this fine person right here.
Bo was driving real legal-like.
Hi, Daisy.
Hi, Cletus. Now, I can vouch for Bo.
Happy
you
birthday.
Me, don't you?
Well, sure,
Daisy
but
Duke.
I still got to do my duty.
Oh, my
Cletus,
God.
look what you've got him done. Now, sugar, can't you find it in your big, warm heart to not give my poor little cousins a nasty, nasty ticket?
I wouldn't give him a ticket. I wouldn't give him a ticket. No. Catherine Bach. Holy shit. Man, now that was a looker. She's still pretty firm, too. Still looks pretty damn good.
Do we even know how old she is? Or do we want to know how old she is right now?
I don't remember exactly how old she is. I think she's in. We'll figure it out. We'll find out. But we'll go to the Google machine here and take a look. But the birthday today. But you think about that. And
Alexa, how old is Catherine Bach?
Oh, nice. There you go. What'd she say?
Catherine Bach is 67 years old.
67 years
March
old.
1st, 1954.
Ooh,
Nice.
March 1st. Thank you.
Nice.
March 1st, 1954.
Damn. I'll tell you what, though. I've seen a couple of things.
Sure about that.
They still have like this traveling thing. I mean, I know you can go to Cooters. We went to Cooters in Nashville, and I know they still. I mean, this is obviously this show is just still so epic. You know, they've got a traveling road show where her and Sonny Schroyer and I think Schneider will pop in every now and then, and they still go around the country and do little touristy stuff. And she's held together well. She's held together well. She's been through a lot.
Yeah, I've been through a lot. I had a bad hair day today. Definitely not the best I've looked here on the screen today.
And that's what sucks about this damn video. This was nice before.
I know.
When this was audio only, God, this was so nice. I could do this like shirtless in you know, a G-string, for crying out loud. I mean, the video kind of changes everything up.
It does, but I mean, I'll get through it. But yeah, she has held up fairly well compared to some other ones. Obviously, probably Elizabeth Hurley still my favorite of the snow leopards right there in the 50th age bracket right there. But she's got it. But happy birthday to Catherine Bach, and hopefully nobody takes her to the woodshed because she drove a Jeep named Dixie.
Well, you know their other car. You can't see their other car on TV anymore. But
that's right. You can't see the bright orange.
Nobody cared about it back then. Nobody really cared about it back then. I, as a matter of fact, still don't care about it now. But anyway, so Bobby, have to ask you before we get to racing. We got to talk about all the dirt racing coming up. I see Heart of Texas has already been mentioned right there, but We saw the news today. I like to give you a hard time about your Texans because everybody gives me a hard time about my Cowboys. They suck. Both of our teams suck. But your man, J.J. Watt, going to a perennial winner, going to the Cardinals. How about that? What do you think about that?
I was kind of surprised. I figured he was going to go to the Steelers to play ball with his two brothers, which is where I really thought he was going to end up. But just think, they could have got a draft pick for him, but they decided to just let him go.
Typical.
Because he asked for it. And then you've got Deshaun Watson, who's probably going to miss out on a couple of $1 million because he is not going to play for the Texans this year. And so I've been very, very disappointed in the front office over there with the Texans. They've got a lot to do to make the improvements that I think the team needs to make. But yeah, it looks like both teams in Texas are a dumpster fire. But for once, the Cowboys are not the biggest dumpster fire in Texas. The Houston Texans now have that mantle.
Could be getting Russell Wilson. Never know. Never know. Saw that coming out. And also saw some really crappy stuff about the whole Eyes of Texas thing. But that's for another show. We'll deal with that at another time. But 37 gets their first race in the books this past Saturday night. And on this show tonight, just jumping back for a second, coming up at 6:30, we'll talk to Donnie Wilson. At 7 o'clock, Selby Holder, the promoter out at Heart of Texas, get you ready for a doubleheader weekend out there in Elmont. But I-37 gets going. Looked like a pretty good program, but again, this is where you have another harsh reality kicking the ass or balls or slap in the face, whatever you want to call it. We see it right there on Saturday night, where guys, when you want to pinch pennies, when you want to spend all of that money on everything other than safety, we saw it firsthand right there as one of those tuners there with Riker Hernandez. That thing sets the blaze, and it was not going to stop. That was a bonfire. That was a bonfire. That's all that was.
Yeah, the whole thing was a bonfire. I don't think that all the stuff that we found showed that he ended up cutting a fuel line, but I don't think he had an external pump in there to be able to cut the fuel line off. I know the one thing that I had with the high five, we did run I think it was a 12-gallon gas tank, a fuel cell in the back of it, but we also had a fuel set-off valve in it. So I think that's probably where some of the issue lied. After he cut the fuel line, it just kept going into the tank. It just kept going and going and going, and definitely not a good thing, especially when your entry-level class is the one that has the safety problems. That's not good at all.
Yeah, and I read somewhere, maybe it was a misprint, and again, everything happens so fast. I saw somewhere somebody said a 20-gallon tank, and I'm thinking, man, we never ran 20-gallon tanks even in big cars. I wouldn't think that would be the case there, but it just goes back to you just have to be prepared, and I don't know. I mean, I did see the fire crew out there. I mean, I saw fire crew, I saw fire extinguishers. I was actually watching that event as it happened, but then the different they're flipping the car over, they're putting dirt up on the car, and I did see something raised on Speed Zone, possibly going back to a receiver thing, and it was a receiver in play. I think it was. But still, that could have been really, really bad. It was bad, but that could have been a hell of a lot worse than that.
Yeah, it was definitely a bad situation to start off the season. Definitely not what Johnny Torres and his new regime wanted to see. But I think that it ended up being, as far as the car getting toasted, that's one thing. But I think as far as the driver getting out and being okay, other than probably being a little traumatized for the first couple of races out, it looks like everything turned out as well as it could, minus a charred race car. But at this point, with as big a fire as that was, I don't think there was no saving that car.
Yeah, and apparently a brand new race car is what that was there for Hernandez, but not much left of it, and it looked pretty. I saw some of the video from the grandstands there as all of that was happening, and man, that was pretty massive. I mean, that was an inferno right there. But that's where you go back to. I mean, guys, I mean, you have to. I mean, get that safety equipment. I mean, get the best that you can get, and if it comes down to going to spend money on the motor, well, I guess in that class you're not supposed to, which brought up another question that I had on Saturday night that we can get to here in a second. But I mean, don't skimp on the safety. I mean, you go and you man, the best. I don't care if you're going 200 miles an hour. I don't care if you're going 40 miles an hour. When you get in a situation like that, especially when you're dealing with fire, those quick stoppages and fire, you cannot screw around and half-ass any of that safety stuff.
No, not really. We've said on the show before that if you can't afford the safety stuff that you need for your safety equipment, then you can't afford to go racing. Everybody thinks that it's just as simple as buying the race car. Can you afford to make the payments on the race car? But no, if you can't afford your safety equipment and decent safety equipment inside that car, then you can't afford to go racing. Now, do you need a Hans? Yeah, probably if you're running an entry level class, but definitely if you can't afford a decent layer suit, and you're racing gloves and you're racing shoes and all that good stuff, then you can't afford to go racing. That's not the one place you need to go skimp at.
And you really have to, change those belts out. Those belts. I know folks will bitch and moan about how much those belts cost, but seriously, you need to be changing those belts out every couple of years. And if your shit stays outside, you probably need to be changing your belts out all the time. And that's one thing. I found a whole new. I know I've mentioned it on here before. A whole new appreciation for safety. Getting in that Dwarf car, because they were so with DCRST, and I'm sure they still are. It was so conscientious about everything was safety related. It was, it's a full containment seat. Everything that you had to do, and obviously with what we were doing back then, it was really geared to. Because some of the pavement stuff, we were just going so fast, but. That is definitely not a place. That is definitely not a place, because you look at it, whatever belts are now. I haven't bought belts in a while. $300, whatever it is. That's what's strapping your ass in that car, and that's what's going to save you right there. So if $300 is too much of an investment every couple of years to keep yourself safe and keep your family happy, to have you in their lives alive, you probably don't need to be doing this.
Yeah, and don't let it be up to the track's decision either. Look out for your own safety equipment. Don't have the track be the one to tell you to replace it because your belts and your window net and stuff have hit the max of the 5 years. I'd say most tracks are going to be at a 5-year window with some of the safety equipment. I know that 1 year that mine was, and they gave me a grace period on it because of the fact that they were, they were newer belts, but the manufacturer, they were sitting in a box for a while, so the manufacturer date was a little off, but they still, as far as inspection, passed the inspection. But don't leave it up to the racetrack to take care of your safety equipment, because it's while it is partially the track's job to keep you safe, it's your own personal responsibility that should be number one, numero uno, to look out after your own safety in your own car.
Mm-hmm. And I did see some questions there, or was the track prepared? You're never ready for that one. You're never ready for anything like that. A flash flame, whatever, we're used to seeing that all the time where something happens, especially you get a motor that goes away. You get out there and you hand grenade an engine out there. Oil's going to go everywhere. There's going to be flash flames and all of this. But this one, it became really apparent really, really fast that this was not going to be one of those quick hitters. And, is the track ready for that? No. I'm sure they're not. But at the same time, the track needs to be ready for that. If you're on that track safety crew and you see this stuff happen, it's kind of one of those things where you take that upon yourself. And again, we go back to when we talk about racetracks. Obviously, a lot of this is volunteer efforts and everything that we see with this. But man, when you jump out there on a fire crew and a safety crew, man, you got to be ready, because you never know what's coming.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to be ready for it. That's why, and another part of the tracks do a decent, majority do a really good job of trying to keep at least the minimum requirement of safety stuff there at the racetrack, the fire extinguishers, some of the different things like that. But they definitely need to. The tracks also need, you need to look out again for your own self. Make sure the track has your ambulance. Make sure that the track has the fire, at least they don't need a full-fledged fire truck there. That's what the minimum safety stuff is for. But definitely, if this was a wake-up call to everybody, including racetrack promoters and some of the different guys on the safety crews, because a lot of people were like, wow, check that out.
Yeah.
Let's hope that doesn't happen at our track.
Yeah, and it's like, if you're out there on the safety crew and that stuff starts happening, that's not the time to take your phone out and make a video. It's your time to get out there and do whatever, that they've put you in that job to do. And I did see that, there were folks that were reaching in through the windshield, and that's a younger kid too. That was a younger kid. So it's, you got to be conscientious about this. Because fire, you do not play around with it. I posted that night. I'm like, I had to deal with that one time, and that was one time way too damn many. And it's scary. And hopefully that's something that's going to be an eye-opener for all the racetracks, all the teams, to do what you need to be doing. Do what you need to be doing. That was scary. Was really impressed that they added the ice stocks to that show. And you wound up with, I think, 12 of those out there. You had 10 that started. Shelby Williams wins there. The Tuners, that race was called after 17 laps. McCall, the winner. Another great fleet of factory stocks. GW Hessong wins in that one. Man, that is such a fun class to watch, man.
It is a fun class to watch. It is a class. I can't wait to see how many they're going to get down in Edna when Edna opens up this weekend. So that's going to be a fun class to watch. It's right now. It's a point where it's not too big for its own britches. I like the way that I-37 is kind of divide them up. With you got your B factory stocks, which kind of takes some of the newer beginners out of that class and moves them into their own class. But it's a fun class to watch when you have a class that's that close with that many cars. That makes it a lot of fun from the grandstands and from the announcer pad too.
Limited modifieds. JJ Jennings wins over Jared Maupin. Still just very impressed with Maupin. I mean, he's always right there. He's in really good equipment. Really good run by right there. But how about old JJ? JJ gets it done and takes care of business. Pretty good stuff right there.
Yeah, no, he did. Pretty good run there. I got to watch it on Race on Texas. So Race on Texas had some really good coverage. I enjoyed watching the go-kart stuff that they had at L87 that afternoon for the kids and the adults that were sitting there that started at 1 o'clock. If you have your Speed Pass account, go back and check out some of that. Owen did a really good job announcing down there, but really good coverage, multi-camera views there at I-37. But speaking of announcing, how about Chris Workman, man? Yeah. He did an exceptional job. That's one of his first times announcing from the best that we can figure out, but he did an outstanding job down there at I-37 for his first time doing it. So that was good to see some fresh blood down there. Congrats to Milton on his retirement, but looks like they got some new blood there in the announcing booth down there at I-37.
Yeah, I need more of those guys right there. I think he did. I think he may have done one of the last shows of last year. And it just comes down to it. I mean, the best advice I can give people when they ask about doing it, it's like, I mean, if you're a race fan, just sit there and talk about what you're watching. I mean, that's really, and that's what he did. And he handled it well. And, I mean, he did a good job with the fire situation. I mean, because that's one of those where when you're thrust into that spot, it's like, what do you do? And, sometimes saying nothing is better. And he handled that well. And I think that's a pretty bright future right there for that dude. He's going to do him a good job up there.
Yeah, definitely did. It was good to see someone else kind of break through the mold, so to speak, and hopefully they found a good guy down there. And so far as what we can tell with some of the experience that we have with some of the race announcers and race announcing ourselves, did a pretty damn good job. So he gets my attaboy for the week for the job that he did down there at I-37.
Yeah, it ain't that hard, guys. Give it a shot. Step up. We need more of them. In the modifieds, Stevie Whitaker wins over Chris Morris, Rick Green, Talon Minton, and Ryan Doyon. So good run right there. And again, Stevie Whitaker, man, when he gets out of that promoter suit and puts a fire suit on, man, he jumps out there, and the dude is just super smooth, super good, and he put on a good show there in that modified race.
Yeah, he did. The car looked good. It was for what I could read on social media, is a brand new car that he just got. I think it's a new IRP car. He switched from some of the Hughes stuff for a while back, and so that brand new IRP car did pretty good. And it looks like his son was racing one of the factory stocks and had a top 3 run there too. So the Whitaker apple does not fall far from the tree once again with the next generation of Whitaker racers.
I want to quickly talk before Donnie Wilson. So I know that we posted some stuff up. Bobby, your thoughts? We're starting to see cars on the track over at Bristol for the Bristol Dirt Nationals coming up March 19th and 20th. You've got cars on the track. You've got practice sessions happening out there and different videos there that are being posted, whether it be, and most of them are in car. I mean, most of what I've seen is in car. Your initial thoughts on all of that?
Well, I think that the dirt race is going to end up just like the asphalt nationals does in the fall. I think it's going to be a crash fest because people get an opportunity to race at Bristol. And getting a trophy that says Bristol Motor Speedway on it is still getting a trophy that says Bristol Motor Speedway on it, regardless of what class you're racing in. But I think that your higher end classes, I think, will be okay for the most part. I think your late model show will end up being pretty good because it's going to be some of your higher end guys, your Scott Bloomquist, your other guys like that. And so I think that the late model race will be okay. But you start getting into the 602 mods, you start getting into the trucks, the street stocks, the Hornets, all of those classes. I think it's going to run the opportunity to be a wreck fest. So hopefully they prove me wrong here in a couple of weeks. But if it's like the other amateur races there at Bristol, it's going to end up being a wreck fest and may be kind of hard to sit through.
Yeah, I don't want to rain on the parade with this at all, and hopefully I'm going to be proven wrong. I think you're totally right with what you're saying right there. But I mean, everything that I've seen, they go in, they lay the surface, and to me, what this really looks like, everything that I've kind of been watching, secondhand up to this point, to me, this really looks like, dirt cars running on an asphalt track that happens to be a little rusty brown. I mean, you watch the entry into the corners. Obviously, they sound different. I mean, these dirt guys, they get on the gas and do whatever they do. Where with asphalt, you go in, you hear them get off the gas, you hear them hit the apex, they diamond off and go. You don't hear quite that right now. You hear them go in and they're burping the gas and everything that you do in one of those high-powered dirt cars. But I mean, to me, from what I've seen with this, is that I don't really feel the dirt effect of this. I mean, it's a very noticeable difference to me when I watch, like what we were watching this weekend, at a dirt track. Very noticeable. I mean, it just looks like to me that this is kind of a mask up on the racetrack, and to this point, it's not anything that's blown me away. It just looks like dirt cars on a paved track.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a dry, slick track is what they've been going after, and hopefully when they start running side by side, it'll be a little bit better. Hopefully they'll get to at least 2 solid grooves out of that place, maybe even 3 grooves if they get the opportunity. So we'll be one to watch to kind of see. I'm not anticipating big things from the Cup race at Bristol on the dirt. So hopefully the actual dirt cars that race on dirt all the time, I actually put on a better show than the Cup race does. So that's what I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I would think that would be the case as that continues to we get just a little closer to all of that happening. But and again, I mean, I could be proven wrong, but I really do think that we're in for the situation that you exactly talk about. I mean, we see a lot of these, not the major series, traveling series, that get over there to the big track, and that's where you do tear a bunch of shit up. And I hope that's not the case, because it's a pretty penny to get there. There's lots of things that you have to do, a lot of money you have to spend to get into those races. So hopefully that's not the case. But if we're looking back at precedents that have been set, that is probably what we're going to be expecting.
Yeah, without a doubt. If the asphalt nationals, well, I guess pavement nationals running on the concrete, that fall race that they've had that runs a lot of the same similar cars, your late models, just set up for dirt and asphalt. If that race is any indication, and I think this dirt show is they definitely gonna need to add an extra wreck or two, because they're going to tear some stuff up.
Oh, man, absolutely. We do want to remind everybody coming up, you do have the USMTS Spring Nationals, as they will get cranked up at RPM. That was actually a cancellation there. So it's, man, everything is really building up here, where you've got a lot of shows that are really starting to ramp up in March, as we are now into March. This is really going to be when man, we're really going to see this stuff uptick. We got some big asphalt shows coming up. We'll talk to Donnie here in just a couple minutes, but you've got the Rattlers coming up. I mean, the Alabama 200. I mean, there's so much happening. This is really a time where NASCAR's been going, but this is when the local, the regional, this is when we're really getting down to business.
Yeah, this is when the roots get watered, so to speak. This is what sprouts the tree to get all the way to the Cup Series. Right now, there's a lot of positive momentum moving up into 2021, and I think it's because of the fact that people cooped up from the winter, and a lot of the big races. The sad part is, a lot of the big racers the races that we're used to, that stock car tour that was going to come through here, the icebreaker there in Abilene, even the big double header there at RPM for USMTS, a lot of that stuff got canceled, got postponed, got pushed back. Even Kennedale up there in the Metroplex got washed out last weekend. And so it's going to be fun to see once everybody starts getting racing, although there's only going to be so much you can consume at one time. A lot of these tracks are racing on top of each other, so we'll see how it shakes out. And don't forget Cotton Bowl's car show and championship little mini celebration. The Craig's Jewelry Car Show ends up running on Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right, because we'll talk to Selby here in a little bit. And you've got the Big Chill 250 that's going to be coming up, and it's a lot. It's going to be a lot. Quickly back to 37. We mentioned there about some of the changes there. We talked about Chris. How about our man Spillman? We talked about him earlier, or you and I talked about him earlier. So he was announcing from the flag stand. I tell you that Joe, he'll jump into anything. I'll tell you that the dude, he doesn't care. He just likes being at the track. That's one of those dudes that he does not know how to say no to anything.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't know how to say no, but hopefully he'll end up being a jack of all trades, so to speak. So it's good to see Joe. Joe did a good job himself. Joe's such a personable person in terms of, he's got that infectious attitude that he has that makes him one of the really good guys in the sport, and he's able to convey that to the fans. with the way that he's able to. But good things there for Joe there at I-37, multitasking there, and I've done a few announcing gigs from the flag stand myself, and found it to be lots of fun. So I think Joe's going to end up being right at home there on the flag stand to come in and do everything there. But who knows? He's got an airplane now. And so now that he's got an airplane, he's able to fly to some of these races like a superstar. But that's good for Joe Spillman and get him a chance to relax up in the ranch in Colorado and all of that stuff. So Joe's a good guy. Look forward to seeing Joe and working with Joe there coming up as the 2021 season rolls along.
Yeah, he does a lot. He does a lot. One of those unsung heroes that, like we said, he will not turn anything down. He's just ready to get after it and get to work. And that again, great show there at 37. You did have that hiccup, but you can't plan for that one. You can't plan for that one. Let's go to the hotline as we're going to shift back over to asphalt. We're talking about some of the big asphalt stuff coming up, and a return trip to the Revved Up Sports Show hotline. One of our favorite dudes gets out there, and man, he is operating a really fantastic race team. It is Donnie Wilson. Donnie, how you doing, friend?
How you guys doing tonight?
We are doing well, sir. How's the weather up your way?
Not bad. It's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
No more of the 14 inches of snow, that's for sure.
Yes.
I'm good.
Yeah. Thank goodness that finally has passed. So quickly, we'll jump into your teams here in just a second. But how about your guy at Pensacola, man? Jumps in the ARCA East and takes care of business. Parks it in Victory Lane.
He did an awesome job. Sammy did a real good job. If anyone watched the ARCA race, obviously at New Smyrna, he should have won that one. It's very weird circumstances. I mean, we won't go into that, but, made an exciting finish, obviously, but no, he did awesome.
Yep.
So, Donnie, talking about New Smyrna, man, that World Series of asphalt racing down there, nine races in 9 nights. I think the super late models run 6 or 7 nights along with the pro late models and stuff. From the owner's perspective, I mean, is that one of those nightmare races that you're like, man, we're going to spend a lot of money down here tearing up a bunch of stuff, or do you go for the competition side? Because there's some heavy hitters that go down there, and that racing is usually pretty good at the World Series.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that's the first time I've ever done the whole thing, regardless if I was a driver or a car owner. But obviously, I was a car owner for both a pro late model and a super, and we had the one mishap with the pro one night. Had to go to a backup car. That was the only challenge, of the whole week. But it's all about early in the season getting these guys just seat time, getting laps, and then concentrating on the 100 lapper at the end of the week.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, Donnie, how hard has it gotten? I mean, I know when you started out, we've talked to you before. I mean, now there's just so many moving parts and pieces, and like we said, you're with Wilson Motorsports. I mean, you guys are one of the top teams in the country, man. It just, I bet it never stops for you, does it?
No, I mean it's a good thing. I mean, I still want to race. I'm still going to race. It's just all the opportunities that come our way with us as a team being able to do what we were able to do, regardless if I'm in the seat or not. It's been I mean, honestly, it's my perspective, it's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, Donnie, talk about that transition. Obviously, you were a fantastic racer and a great competitor, and you're going to jump back in the seat. But they say a lot of promoters are really good when they used to be former racers in terms of kind of switching that role from the driver to the owner. Does it work for you? Do you sit there and say, well, if I was a driver, I could have done this, I could have done that? I mean, how's the challenge been for you to go from watching the videos of you in your own car to watching somebody else in your own car? How's that transition been for you?
It's been pretty tough because I'm always nervous. Someone else is in your cars. But I mean, I've gotten better the past, 4 or 5 months, getting a little used to it. But, I think it's a pretty cool challenge for any driver that gets in any of our cars, trying to improve them. Obviously, our goal, regardless, is to win every race we can. So, and I feel like, I know what it takes. Whether it's team owner or driver, I know what it takes to get the job done, and that's just what we're going to do with no matter who's in the seat.
Yeah. So Donnie, what do you look for? I mean, obviously, I mean, so many great drivers. I mean, that have been in your cars. We'll talk about Caden Honeycutt here in just a little bit. But so what do you look for in these young drivers, man? Because I tell you, man, you are plucking out the best of the best and putting them in your stuff.
I think it's a little bit of just, how hungry are you? How much do you really want to do this? Because we're not here to run 5th to 10th. We're here to run, top 3 and fight for wins every race. I've been blessed and fortunate to every guy that we've had in our cars has been very, very competitive and running up front. So I don't know. I didn't, whether that's luck or not, I couldn't tell you, but I just feel like our team, we put the product on the racetrack that gives these guys a great chance of winning races.
Yep.
So I want to talk about your cars real quick. Do you guys still run the Rowdy cars or the Hamke cars? What chassis are you guys running, and how is your relationship with the manufacturer when you get on the racetrack?
I guess you're going to call them Hamke now, which I think they should have stayed Hamke to start with. But
Yes.
Those Rowdies, Hamkes. Obviously, everyone knows I'm a big supporter of Hamke, so we'll call it that now.
Yep.
Me and Justin are pretty good friends that owns it. And obviously my shop is right across the street from there. So, we have a good relationship, and I push the cars. I mean, I think they're one of the best out there. I mean, it's just what we have and what we're having very good success with. And I know others are too.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. I mean, it is fitting that they went back to Hamke, right? It was like, I mean, that's what it should be. I mean, it just feels right, just kind of going back to kind of normalcy right there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Robert was such a great car builder and a great guy. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that said anything bad about the guy. He helped me a lot through my years, back from 2012 to 16, 17.
Mm-hmm.
He was a great guy. I think it should always stay Hamke, honestly.
Yep, I agree.
So, Donnie, we talked about the great drivers that you had in your car. Obviously, the surprise for us was Caden Honeycutt there at the Derby. Obviously, he was almost there for the pole and ran top 10 and finished in the top 5 there at the Derby. I mean, how'd that deal come about? I mean, is it one of those you just found the guy with the right flair and the right favor, or right flair for the team and the favor for the team? I mean, how does that come about? And then what was your experience working with Hayden?
Caden is an extremely talented, bright, young individual that's got a lot of promise, I think, in the racing world. He takes it very serious, and he works hard at it. Used to race with his dad back in the early 2000s, and they reached out to me and kind of inquired about it. And I went to some dirt races and watched him run as modified and kind of got used to see how their operations, see how he was. And then we just kind of went from there. And, my background is in the dirt world. So I thought that was pretty cool. And he's done an excellent job every time he's been in one of my cars.
Yeah, he really has. He's been really, really good. So Donnie, what do you think? I mean, speaking of the dirt world, I mean, we're seeing some of these Cup guys like Chase Elliott and Briscoe and all these guys kind of going back to roots and doing dirt track racing. Do you think that's something that could really kind of draw racing back together? Maybe kind of bring us all under one umbrella, so to speak, with them kind of going back to roots like that?
Well, I think they need to go back to the roots. I think they got lost on their way. Short track racing's where it's at. I mean, honestly, we all know that. Everyone gets bored with the mile and a half and, restrictor plate racing, and NASCAR's changing it up with the road courses coming, which you got to be a very versatile driver in the future, whether it's obviously running Bristol dirt, so that adds a lot of intrigue and excitement to the NASCAR world, and these drivers that are coming up, they need to have that experience,
Mm-hmm.
But in all, short track racing is where it's at, and I still believe that that's where the true racers are at.
Yep.
Us, the Saturday night racers. There's so many unknowns that have so much talent running weekly at your local place that, you just don't, none of us get the chance to really see it, but your locals,
Yeah.
So, like I tell everyone, support your local short track the best you can.
Yes, sir.
So, Donnie, you might be able to answer this. So, we talk about the divide between back in the day, 10 or 12 years ago, there was a super divide. You were either a diehard dirt track guy or you were a diehard asphalt guy. And it seems like that divide has somewhat subsided a little bit, where you have your guys that enjoy going to both races now, and some of them race both surfaces. But is there still that big divide between the dirt guys and the asphalt guys, or is this whole 2020 pandemic just made us all grateful we're actually getting a chance to race again?
Well, I think that you hit the nail on the head right there. I think we're all grateful to be racing again, and that's the biggest thing. It doesn't matter if you drag race, oval race, road course race. It's all about competition. We all like it, and that's what brings us to the racetrack. We all want to win, but dirt track versus asphalt. I like it all. I'm involved with 305 sprint cars up here in Oklahoma City. We do that, on the dirt. So I love it all. My background is dirt. So,
yeah.
But I definitely love the asphalt short track racing too,
Sure.
And I just think, you look at the dirt late model world, how killer that's going. They run for big money, and that's an intrigue,
Mm-hmm.
I think super late model racing on the asphalt side needs to get to that caliber. How we do that, I don't know, but that's not for me to answer. But fortunately, our purses have in the past year gone up a little bit, and we've been having more big races, and I think in the future you'll see more big races. But I just think it's pretty cool either way. You know?
So, Donnie, your thoughts? Obviously, we got the supers, we got the pro late models. We're really seeing this resurgence with outlaw stocks and sportsmen, whatever you want to call them, depending where you're at over on the southeast. Your thoughts on that division right there? What direction is that going?
Well, I don't really get to keep up with that too much. I know the sportsman deal is getting more popular. I mean, obviously, you got all these guys with the outlaw bodies, racing more and more. And I think, they're taking either older offset chassis like we have and putting those bodies on them and run them. It's affordable class with 8-inch tires.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty good. It's just another, entering class to, get more experience, and someday go in the pro late models or the super late models.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So as far as the pros versus the supers, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's very similar. You change out the motor and some other stuff and some weight, and you get to do it that way. Is there a preference for you in terms of I know you as a driver have loved racing the super late models, but as far as the team owner, is it any more cost effective at all to run a pro late model than it is a super late model?
Well, at the end of the day, the difference in a pro late model and a super late model is a wet sump versus a dry sump system. Obviously the motor is about $7,500 more in a super than a pro, and you got a little more expense on the car, which probably, maybe $5,000 more at the most. As far as at the racetrack expense, I'd probably say, obviously, the pro late model is cheaper to run because you're not going to buy as many tires as you are with a super.
Right.
So, but then also the purse on the pro late model is not as good as the supers, obviously. But but it's it goes in one hand out the other. The pro late model series is for the guys, your younger kids and stuff that's getting into it that have aspirations to move up to the super late model stuff or cars late model stock, NASCAR late model stock, stuff like that. That's just kind of how it all evolves.
Yeah, absolutely. So what races do we get to see you behind the wheel this year? You doing Triple Crowns or what all do you have in mind? I mean, I know you got a lot going on running the operation.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. Obviously I've got, Sammy, 15 races, a lot of big races. I've got Chandler Smith, 8 to 10 races again. And then, trying to get Caden, at the end of the year to run some races. And Trevor Knowles in North Carolina to do some races. Then I've got some pro late model races with some kids. So So we got a lot going on. As far as me fitting in, I'm just trying to weave my way to find out where I can fit in. But I do know that I'm definitely going to do the Milwaukee Mile this year in June.
Nice.
I would like to do Nashville in the May. I mean, because obviously we all know I like Nashville.
Right.
But, I'm just going to have to see where I fit in. Races that no one else is doing, I'm going to try to go do them myself.
That's awesome.
So.
Yep.
So Donnie, we can't let you go. Obviously, we've been talking races. We can't let you go without talking about your Oklahoma Sooners. What do you think the prospect was? Was their recruiting class good enough for you? Do you think they're going to just steamroll everybody in the Big 12 again? What do you think about the Sooners' upcoming football season?
Well, I don't know. Recruiting actually kind of, to be honest, we ended with a dud. They were expecting 3 or 4 players, and we all know they went somewhere else, whether it was Alabama or Florida or LSU or somewhere. Texas with the new coach is going to make it very interesting, obviously, because they get rejuvenated every time they get a coach.
Yeah, every
the Big 12 needs that rivalry. Everyone knows I'm a big OU football guy, so I'm on it every day.
Yep.
But it's gonna. Obviously, I think Oklahoma's going to be in the driver's seat again this year. Next year's might be where you see Texas come to put a good challenge up, which we like I said, we need that, I'm honestly, as a college football fan, I'm ready for the whole Power 5 to kind of break up and rearrange all this to 4 conferences and have it break down like it should,
Yeah.
And I think in 2025, I think that's when that's coming.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I know down here with Texas, it's like, okay, Alabama South, let's see if we can, and they go on and on around here. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's still OU's race to lose. I mean, it's OU all the time. You guys are so good.
Yeah, and and honestly, the biggest, I mean, as far as recruiting deal, A&M's the one that
I know, yeah,
stealing all the kids.
Yeah, you're right.
Jimbo Fisher, I don't know what he's doing down there, but he's getting a lot of good recruits, and of course, Houston and south of Austin. I mean, man, you guys got a hotbed down there. There's so many kids in Texas to recruit out of. It's man, very fun deal.
Yeah. Hey, Donnie, right quick, let me ask you. So Gina here that runs HMP, promotes there at HMP with Mobile. Your thoughts on Mobile coming back? Looking forward to that super late model race, man. That's going to be a kick-ass time.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, because that is a extremely awesome racetrack. I've won at several times.
Yep.
That needs to not go away. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the race that I probably will run myself. So, since it's brought back on the schedule, but love Mobile. I mean, we need to, supers, pros, they need to run there 4 times a year, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. I totally agree. I think it.
I mean, if you really want to go thinking about it, that's the only reason I started from Oklahoma traveling to Pensacola, was because the doubles back in 2004 and 5. If you guys remember, the double races at Pensacola on Friday night, and Mobile on Saturday. I'm like, hey, I can go race for twice in one weekend. That's cool, Yeah. And
I think we can do that again. I mean, I really think we can do that again.
Yeah.
I mean, just get the footing right. I think we can make it happen.
Right. We had the first weekend for the first Blizzard race. Obviously, that Friday night, then Saturday night they're running at Montgomery. So, just like that, I think we could get some things like that to make it a little, cost effective. And I think, we all of us have to look at all this racing to try to be more cost effective. I think that's one of the things in the asphalt world we're kind of having an issue with. And I'm a big proponent of, testing bans, 2 weeks prior to race. And, they should kind of whittle them down to one-day shows and stuff like that to try to help. I think you get more cars, things like that.
Hey, and quickly, Donnie, I was going to ask you this a while ago, and I forgot, and we'll cut you loose. Sorry. So I know before the World Series, there was a little bit of discontent back and forth there. What all was going on there? I think some folks, some engine rules or something that was going on there, where there was back and forth and guys not wanting to run because of some rule changes.
You're talking about the pro on the pro late model
on the
side?
pro side. Yeah, on the pro side.
Yeah, the pro late model side is the difference in the 425 Ford crates and the blue oval crates having to put restrictor plates on their motors, restricting them down to, they're bringing the 604s Chevy stock in there, which they make about 420 to 430 horsepower, where the 425s were making 440, 445. So they're basically trying to make the 604s come in, be the motor of choice, because they were given a 25-pound weight brake, no restrictors, and then they were restricting our motors and making us weigh 25 pounds more, which, at New Smyrna, honestly, at the end of the day, it really didn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't really look like it because we had a variety of motor combinations win. We will get this weekend at Montgomery with the pros, and next week at the Rattler, you will get a better idea how those rules are doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a work in progress, obviously, but my problem was 80% of the pro late models are all Fords.
Sure.
And they're trying to make and guys are just gonna, hey, if they think that's the best option, they're gonna ditch the Ford and go spend money buying a 604 and spending all that money to change it over. So I mean, that's really, in my mind, if you were starting from fresh, brand new, oh yeah, it's fine. Go buy you a 604. But for the existing guys, you're costing them money, and that's not what that class was designed for. It's supposed to be a money saving, cost effective class. So because everyone wants to win, and we're all racers, but if at the end of the day, if you feel like you're getting beat that way, you're going to go spend that money and change over.
That's right. Yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yep. Well,
now, and from what I'm understanding now, there's no 604s out there right now because there's a cylinder head shortage. So now we're in a real pickle on that. So,
yeah.
So it's always something.
There's always something. There's always something. And we're early on in the year. So we'll see what the hell happens next. So good stuff.
There you go.
Yes, sir. Donnie, always appreciate it, man. Good luck at Montgomery and Rattler, man. Looking forward to following you and the team along, dude.
Yeah, we'll be at the Rattler. Unfortunately, we won't be at Montgomery this week, but we'll be at the Rattler.
All right.
So I appreciate you guys having me on. Everyone have a great week and a great month. Thank you.
Take care, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There he is, Donnie Wilson. And, man, what an empire. What an empire this
getting
dude.
There, isn't he?
Oh,
man, all those cars, all those different drivers. He becoming a big time player. Not that he wasn't before, but man, with this arsenal that he's got with these different drivers and teams, he's definitely becoming a force to be reckoned with super late model racing. Not only just in the Southeast. I mean, his cars are competitive regardless of where they run, whether they try to run up north and Winchester and some of those other places. So just like when he was driving full time, his cars have definitely got their stuff together this time for running in super late model competitions. And his pro stuff wasn't that bad during the World Series either.
No,
so.
And that's the funny thing. I was going to say as he was talking right there when he was saying, hopefully, some of these races I can get back behind the wheel. I'm like, well, but at the same time, if his cars are occupied, he's doing okay. so it's from the business side, and I mean he's again with those Hamke cars, the rowdy cars, whatever you want to call them. It's been really cool to see how that team has just progressed into, when Donnie made that jump. I mean, because Donnie was one of those guys like he was talking about. I mean, we had him here with Romco, and he was the outsider, not the Texan, but he did a really good job, and he took that leap of faith and went and started doing this stuff all around the country. And I mean, look at him now. I mean, what a rise for him. That's tremendous.
Was it another one of those 20-year overnight success stories, right?
Exactly.
Just like we see those all the time in racing. People forget that Donnie was racing sprint cars and stuff 20, 25 years ago and racing. And, I think he won his Romco championship in 2001. Missed the race there, blew a motor down in Corpus, that's got to suck. He drove from Oklahoma City all the way down to Corpus and blew a motor in final practice. And that would not be a fun way to have that drive back. But even though he missed that race, still ended up winning the championship that year. I got some good pick. He used to put an ass whooping on him in San Antonio, didn't he? Back in the day, he loved going down to San Antonio.
Absolutely, he did. Absolutely, he did. I mean, he was so good, and good for him. I mean, it's really cool to that's one of those dudes where it's kind of cool, to just kind of dial him up and be like, hey, you got some time, and he's like, always got time for you guys. So that's good stuff. So that race coming up, the Alabama 200, the Show Me the Money series. For the pro late models there at Montgomery, that's going to be fun right there. And a very interesting participant into this race is Stephen Nasi. He hadn't run pro stuff there before. He's run some supers, but this is going to be his first little soiree into the 200. And you've got the King of the Hill right there, 5 wins for Augie Grill. I think we're going to have a pretty damn good little pro late model race in that 200.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be good. A lot of, as Donnie said, a lot of up and coming kids. You don't see the veterans that you do there in the super late model world. You don't see a lot of that. It is a sometimes considered a wreck fest a lot of times because you have the younger kids that are trying to prove themselves and or sometimes just driving over their head.
Yeah.
And so you get a lot of crashes and wrecks, but every once in a while you'll get a good kid that comes out of there, and you'll get to see some kid that's really gifted. And I say kid because generally most of them are under the age of 18. Hell, most of them are about 14 or 15 years old now, making us both feel old.
Well, Jake Garcia, Jake Garcia won that race a year ago. I mean, it was a late pass right there where he goes on to win that. He'll be back in there once again, so it will be, and you get him out on the half mile right there. I mean, that's going to be a good race, and of course, Speed 51, I'm sure is where that's going to be. But when you get those veterans in there, when you get Nasi in there, he's going to get in there, and he's not going to be shy about doing what he needs to do to win. And to have Augie in the race, I mean, I'd love to see Augie Grill. I mean, he had that great paint scheme there at the Snowball and a really good run in the last chance. It was weird to see him in that anyway. But that he wants to go out there and get him one for Frankie. And I think to maybe get a 6th win there in the Alabama 200, I think that'd be pretty special for him.
Yeah, it definitely would be. I mean, obviously he didn't have the Derby weekend that he wanted. By no means. Him and Bubba Pollard both did not have the Derby weekends they wanted. But we got to bring your A game, like Donnie talked about. I mean, you've got to have your stuff on point when you get to the racetrack. I did like what he talked about making some of this stuff a one-day show, taking away some of the practice time.
Yep. But
then again, we might get into it with Selby here coming up in a minute about the fact that sometimes you got to have practice days because that's extra revenue for the racetrack, and extra revenue is good for the racetrack. So it's a fine line.
Yeah, that's really the key. I mean, but a lot of like what what Donnie was talking about there. When you get these guys out there, I mean, when you start when you're doing a lot of practice, I mean, it's tires. I mean, you start spending money on tires and everything. And I think it's something that we saw Denny Hamlin that had tweeted about, where he's like, asphalt kind of keeps stepping on themselves because he stretches things out so long, and you make it a 2-day show, and it is for the competitor. It's a lot of money, and it's rough. I mean, it really is rough, and that really is the Achilles heel for pavement racing. Is you have to get that figured out. You have to get that figured out. I like what Gina did in Houston, at the end of last year, where it's one practice apiece. I know for some folks that didn't go over well, but it's one of those situations where you get to the track and you should be halfway close. I mean, you get out there, you practice, you make adjustments, and go. And it's just cost effective. I mean, that's a cost of doing business right now, I think, that asphalt folks really need to embrace.
I think so. The problem is that it's so hard to break from the normal, your mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
And Donnie didn't tell us in those exact words, but it's one of those to where if the neighbors are doing it, keep up with the Joneses. I mean, if those guys are spending all day at a racetrack, burning through tires, and you want to win and you got to beat them, guess what? Your ass is going to be right there beside them, burning through tires at a test session, doing the exact same thing because it's basically keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, and it's I remember at CTS we would open the gates at 9:00, and start practicing at 11 or whatever it was, and I mean it was a lot. I mean it makes for a really long day, and of course on the dirt side, I mean I know they don't do that, and I mean they're hot laps, 3 laps, whatever it is, but still. I do see as we've gotten more acclimated with dirt, it's like, the track may not open till 5, but help people get there at 2. So it's kind of it's same difference, I guess is the best way to say it, but it's just what we do and what we're used to doing, and change is hard. So I guess that'll continue to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's always going to be that way. It's what is it, the pink radiator cap that We've talked about before the blue lug nut that works too. Kind of the same theory. All it takes is for one thing to keep up with the Joneses, and there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It will continue to trend. I mean, it is what it is, and we keep coming back for more, so we just keep doing it. Let's jump back over to the hotline. We got a doubleheader weekend coming up. It wasn't actually planned this way, but over in Heart of Texas Speedway, the 55th year. Man, what a story. What a place. A treasure right there just north of Waco. Going back to the hotline, it is Selby Holder, the promoter out at HOT. Selby, how you doing, friend?
Doing good tonight.
Absolutely.
Doing real good.
You ready? You ready for a busy weekend, my man?
Absolutely.
Nice. I love it. That's awesome.
So talk about this weekend's racing that you got going on. Big doubleheader. Obviously, you're kicking off that 55th season up there in Heart of Texas. I mean, so what's been the feel? What's been the vibe this week? Is it all positive, or are you stressed out because you got so much to do for opening night? I mean, talk about the preparation that's coming up for this week that you've had all off season to prepare for.
Well, this season started off as terrible as anybody could imagine. You know, with the Arctic blast and the cold and the freezing and having, stock our tour camp and moving our big chill race to Saturday. And what a lot of people don't know is the freeze got us just as bad as it probably got Cotton Bow and other places. And we ended up spending this past weekend actually replacing just about every water line at the racetrack just to get the concessions and restrooms and everything going. Just want to shout out to Brian. Most people know him as the guy that builds the Hellion race car chassis, but real life and his Monday through Friday job, he's a plumber, and him and his crew from Cleanup Plumbing did a yeoman's job over the weekend and knocked it out for us, so that we're up to snuff with the health department and everything else. But as far as the racing goes, our 55th year, we are the longest consecutive running dirt track in the state of Texas, and it's a task every year to get up and running, but Robert and Jerry and John and the crew there have done, tremendous work. We've upgraded the PA system in the grandstand and in the pits. One of the things we've been wanting to do just time-wise and things with everybody's schedules to get that aligned, but that we are allowed to do that. And we always kick our season off with the Jack Bagman Memorial 1,000 Win Mod Show. Jack was a racer and a long car owner, and when he passed, his family had come to us and wanted us to run a show opening day every year, and 20 plus years. I don't know if it's 23 or 24 years in a row we've done that, and to honor him, he's one of our original inductees on our Wall of Fame, and it's an honor to do that. And then with the Enduro, we shifted it to March the 6th. Going to start it an hour early when a race is going to start at 2, and still allow the racers that race the Enduros that still want to make a haul down to either to Kennedale or any other racetracks racing on a Saturday night. They can still do that. We should be, a couple hours of Enduro racing and get back going. But it'll be a little bit of task for the crew to get the track ready, but there's not a lot of prep between, we've done 2-day shows before and can do that even with our fall club. Should be a great show. Weather's good, it was better earlier a couple days ago. It's got about a 30% chance of that R word, but we're not really worried about that at all. It's showing to be everything east of 35, so that we're in good shape for that.
Yeah. How cool is it, Selby, there? I mean, everything that you mentioned right there, just such a great team that you have in place there. It has to be really cool to work with ownership and everything at the racetrack that I mean, if you need something done, they do it. And I mean, it's just been fluid. I mean, it's run for so long. It has to be really cool to be a part of that team.
Absolutely. Jerry is probably one of the best owners to work for. And, he's told me many times, I'll try anything once. And if it doesn't work, he'll let you know it doesn't work. But,
right.
He's not afraid to gamble, on a show. He's not afraid to put the money up for racers to come, COVID was tough for us last year. We lost 10 races, but the positive about COVID for us was, once we got open and running, it was our best fan count, total fan count, weekly fan count. Was the highest it's been in probably 15 years. And
Wow.
part of that's because the movie theaters, dance halls, bars, things of that nature weren't open and people were looking for things to do. But we got a lot of fans throughout the year, and we're just hoping that when we kick off this Friday that those fans come back and use the edge of the seat and watch some great racing action.
Nice.
So that was one of the questions I had for you, because you've been around for 55 years and there's a lot of tradition there in the heart of Texas. I was going to ask you, how hard is it to come up and want to make a change? Do you get a lot of pushback from that when you decide to make a change on a race or make a change on an event night or something? I mean, how hard is that? Like, do your diehard fans just sit there and say, no, don't do that, you're ruining a good thing? Or does everybody kind of keep an open mind as much as they can with the battle with the promoter?
For the most part, don't get a lot of kickback. We've over the years, I've been either working at the racetrack or associated with the racetrack for probably, 18 or 19 years, promoting for the last, I guess, 4 or 5. Can't even tell you when I started that, but it's been kicked around back and forth. Hey, let's go to Saturday night because it's hard for people to get there on Friday night, and we kicked that around 3 or 4 years ago, and it was like, no, we're not going to do that. Yes, we should. And we've stuck with Friday night and Friday night for as long as I can remember, since I was 11 or 12 years old, going out to dirt track. And but we have to shift dates. The hardest thing is rescheduling an event. It's tough. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we already had 40 entries into the enduro, which is going to be a heck of a show on Saturday. We may have a few of those guys who can't make it, but we try to give enough notice for those that were traveling out of state, because we had a number of drivers from out of state that are scheduled to be at that event. And so, with that, we just kind of roll with the punches and move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Big Chill 250, that is going to be on Saturday. Opening night on Friday. It is the Bagby Memorial. Looking forward to that. So, Selby, we've talked so many different guys. We had Spillman on here last week, and we were really talking nuts and bolts of racetrack operation. With IMCA, with that sanctioning right there, talk about how important that is. I mean, that is really where dirt track racing, the dirt track aspect really sets itself away from pavement, in my opinion, because with all of that there, man, that is such a great backbone for a local racetrack.
Absolutely. And we've been IMCA for 26, that we're going on our 26th year with IMCA. And
wow.
The biggest thing with IMCA is having consistent rules. You can take a rule package. You've got a car that's legal in whatever division of IMCA that you elect to race in. You decide that either you're going on vacation or you just want to go try something different, and you go to an IMCA sanctioned track, your car is legal.
Mm-hmm.
If it's legal within the rules, it's going to be legal at their racetrack. And that's no different with the other, sanctioning bodies that are out there that have that. Everybody gets frustrated when the rule gets enforced and you may not be playing by the rules, but you at least have the sanctioning body to go back on. And those rules are pretty cut and dry, black and white. The racers always look at the gray areas of it, but the enforcements are there. And as long as I was a tech man for years, still the regional director for IMCA, still do teching at Super Nationals every year. And,
mm-hmm.
The biggest thing is being consistent. You want to educate them before you regulate them, but at the same point, show them in the rules where it is, show them what the penalty is, and enforce the penalty. And that's the only thing you can do, because not enforcing a rule, is going to get you run into issues. The next time something happens, you're going to say, well, you let this guy off or that guy off.
Right. Yeah.
Doing that is not going to get anywhere, and it's not going to get drivers to come back to your racetrack.
Nope.
Yeah, that's what we've been told by a lot of promoters is just the enforcing of the rules. It's the blessing and the curse. You have the guys that love it, that it gets enforced, but then you have some guys that are like, they're too strict on the rules and all of that. So it's still like, we've heard that from multiple promoters, that the best bet is to enforce the rules, because you have the backing of IMCA, and it turns around like that. So as far as like the IMCA deal goes, in terms of that, like you talked about the advantages of having the same rule package and everything else. How much do they go about helping you guys, like in terms of like giving you stuff to promote out? Do they give you like fan stuff to give out, like some swag, or is it just you pay the money and then you get some of the kickback at the end of the year the drivers do in terms of having to get the money for the regional and national points?
They do. They don't give as much swag as maybe some of the other sanctioning bodies do. Kevin Yoder, the marketing guy for IMCA, I've known Kevin and worked with him at Super Nationals for the last 7 or 8 years, and I've called him numerous times for different things and different swag items to give away. But for the most part, you know, with the sanctioning body is their rule package, their insurance that's a rider against racers, and as well as the regional point funds and the track point funds. You know, each track pays a sanction fee per division on a weekly basis, and that money is turned around and given back to the racers in a point fund each year. And depends on how many racers you have, how many race nights you have, determines what that point fund is, and how many drivers qualify for that point fund determines the total value of that on a daily or on a yearly basis.
Yeah. Selby, how cool is it for you guys? Because it seems like if you really look at the geographical thing of short track racing here in Texas, you've got the cluster of tracks down south, and you've got everything up north, and you've got the history with Heart of Texas, and you're sitting like right in the middle. And what I've noticed as I've started studying to work with you guys is, man, you pull them in from everywhere. I mean, that's got to be a pretty sweet little feeling right there, that everybody converges onto Heart of Texas.
Absolutely. We get racers from all over the state of Texas that race with us. We get guys that pull from sometimes on a weekly basis, sometimes twice a month. They'll come up and run. We've got guys from South Texas that'll come. Dallas, Fort Worth here, pull a lot of those. You know, for me as a promoter, the hardest thing that I have for a promoter when I'm doing scheduling is telling series or groups, you know, that I don't have a night for you because everybody wants to race at our racetrack.
Sure.
You know, part of it is, you know, Heart of Texas has the highest banking for a quarter-mile dirt track in the state. You know, it's a true bull ring. You know, when sprint cars run there, you know, sprint cars are pretty darn exciting. You know, they put on one heck of a show there, regardless of whether it's a winged or wingless group that comes. You know, we've got late models. We ran them last year, DFW, the crate late models, and we got them back for, I think, about 3 or 4 shows this year. They put on a heck of a show for us last year when we got to those after COVID kind of let us start opening up. And so, you know, the hardest part for me as a promoter when we're doing scheduling is having enough nights in there and not just, you know, overwhelming the fans either. But at the same point, trying to give the fans a good show every week, whether it's, you know, our weekly racers are our gold mine. You know, they're the guys that support our track each and every week.
Yep.
We try to look for groups that come in that are going to bring a large car count and put a heck of a show on for the fans, and that's kind of the juggling act we do every year. You know, November, December, when we're trying to get our schedule up.
Yeah, and you know, as you say that, so we watch, you know, racetrack schedules come out, and they're trying to do dates. You guys, I mean, you guys are one of the few. I mean, it's every week. I mean, there's not a lot of lapses in there. I mean, how are you guys able to pull that off? I mean, just great support, I guess, in the back and the front gate to do that year after year.
Absolutely. I mean, I would beg to differ that I have the biggest problem with sprint car guys. Is every sprint car group wants as many races as they can get at our racetrack. Yeah. And, you know, sprint cars, models, you know, those groups, you know, the bigger the sprint car, the bigger the purse that they're wanting. And so you have to negotiate that with the series and things of that nature. And, you know, that's the challenges. And, you know, we try to not, you know, ideally we try to have, when you look at the schedule, at the beginning of the year, it stacks pretty heavy because we want to try to draw in the fans at the beginning of the year that may be new fans to come watch, because they may not come every week. But if they show up and there's sprint cars there or late models there, and you give them one of these magnetic schedules that they can stick on their refrigerator, they're going to go, hey, I love those sprint cars. When are they back? And they're back, you know, 3 more times during the year. They're going to come back. So, and then once we get out of March, it's usually 1 or 2 nights of the month that we'll run either late models or a division of sprint cars. We always have dwarf cars put on a good show for us, and then our local classes. And one thing we did different here was the mods. We were struggling. Well, every track in Texas last year was struggling pretty hard with mod counts, and so when the promoters got together and talked about it, and we're cycling the mods every other week with Boyd Raceway, because they're the only other Friday night IMCA track, and then Kennedale's doing the same thing with Southern Oklahoma for the northern mod guys. So I'm hoping that will work. If you look at the schedule, sprint cars, late models, something like that is going to be in that position, to fill that void, so that we still have a full show for the fans. Because we love to get the fans in, started at 8, try to get over by 10:30, 11. Sometimes it's a long night and it gets to 12. But if you can give the fans a good, 3.5 hours of racing, good action on the racetrack, that's what we're shooting for.
Yes, sir.
So, Selby, one of the coolest things I like about Heart of Texas, what they did is you mentioned it before with your Wall of Fame up there, is you guys have found like the ultimate way to respect the past and find a way to find those new future stars that are coming up and coming with racing in some of these sprint cars and stuff like that. How cool is that to connect the past to the present and even somewhat of the future from a promoter's perspective? I mean, there's got to be, with the legendariness of Heart of Texas, there's got to be just an unusual number of guys, an unlimited number of guys rather, that could be on that Wall of Fame. How do you go about picking it, and then how do you just juggle it from past to present?
So Tommy Armstrong and his brother have been the kind of the guys that Steerhead came up with that idea. It's been, how many years ago? It's been a number of years ago when we started the Wall of Fame, and basically they've got a group of about 50 or 60 racers and fans that are kind of, it's kind of like the Hall of Fame for baseball.
Yeah.
Basically, they send a list of names out, and they're voted on. The last 3 or 4 years, I'm one of the 40 that pick that. I don't pick the names. You can request a name be put on the list, and it's chosen. I think next year will be our last year of the Wall of Fame that fills the Wall of Fame wall that's there, and then after that, the next wall will be put right beside it, and the pavilion will just get enlarged.
Nice.
Jerry made a guarantee to the Armstrong family that started that. They've got a great speed cave that's got a lot of history of dirt track and drag strip racing history out in Axtell that support that and do that. That have donated material to that. So for us, it's a way to honor the races that have been there. Our tagline racetrack was "Where legends race and where legends race and champions born."
Yeah.
We've had so many legends that have raced at our racetrack either weekly or on occasion, and we've got so many national champions that are raced there weekly or competed there on a regular basis that it's great when you look at the championships for IMCA for the most part that have came out of the state of Texas, and for the most part those racers have raced Speedway and raced in front of our fans. Honor for us, when the time comes to put those individuals on that wall.
Yeah, absolutely. So such a cool thing, and I mean, and again, very unique to Heart of Texas Speedway. But you guys can do it. I mean, just because of the rich history there. So it is the Bagby Memorial coming up, $1,000 to win for the modifieds. You got the mods, the sport mods, stock cars, factory stocks, outlaw street stocks, junior limited. That's going to be a great show on Friday night, I think.
Absolutely.
Yep. And then not to be outdone, you got the Big Chill 250. So again, just recap it all. I mean, ticket information, everything, Selby. It's going to be a fantastic way to start the weekend off or the race season for you guys this weekend.
Absolutely. Friday night we'll at 6 like they normally do. Racing is going to start around 8:00. Standard admission prices for our night: adults are $12, senior, military, and students are $10, children 6 to 12 or $5, children under are free. Passes are $30. Big Chill, the Enduro, $15 for adults, $12 for military, senior, and students. 6 to 12 children are $5, children 5 and under are free. Passes are $5. And then we'll continue on after that. we roll right back in the next week with the Bandit Out sprint car. You know, this year they did a little bit different. They used to be the Sprint Bandits. They changed their lane because they opened the cubic limit on that class. So
nice.
It's basically run what you run. You got a set wing angle and you got a set of tires. You run the same set of tires heat to the feature, and those guys have put on fabulous shows at the track. And then not to be outdone by the week after that, we'll roll in with the DFW crate late models.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we've got back week. You know, the month of March is going to be pretty jam packed. The week of the 19th is going to be our regular race night. We're not going to be running for track points. Couple of reasons.
Yep.
One, we had a Cotton Bowl rescheduled the World Outlaws, and we got a number of drivers that have already elected to support that event, and also the Bristol race is going to be going on, and we've got 3 or 4 of our drivers in 2 or 3 different classes are going to be going out there to take their gander at that big racetrack, and hopefully don't tear up too much equipment while they're out there. But at the same point, so that night we'll be just running for regional and state and national points for those IMCA divisions, and all classes will be. We're still going to have races for our fans, and we're going to still pay the money for our guys to be there. But for those that, what we don't want to do is we don't want to penalize the guy, 2 or 3 weeks into the season, if because he's already paid his fee or something for a once in a lifetime. I don't want to knock a guy out of a track championship he may be wanting to run for. So out of respect for those drivers, going to let them have their claim out there in Bristol, and hopefully they bring it back in one piece. That's going to be a tough race, man. It's one of those once in a lifetime bucket list things, and I hope it's a good race. I really do. It's just it slicks off, which it's probably going to do with the type of dirt and the lime they got in it. It's definitely going to be for some of the medium to lower divisions, and the shrapnel may be a little. We'll see.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. It's like this may be a Sanford and Son race by the time some of those classes. Hopefully that's not the case. But and again, just a great gesture by you guys. I think that's fantastic doing that weekend.
Absolutely.
Yep. And also, I'm looking forward to getting down there. Man, I can't wait to crack a mic and break in that PA system. It's gonna be a fun time.
Absolutely, we're honored to have you. And you and Joe, and if you ever have a problem with Joe's fault, because he gave me your name and number, so we're gonna blame Joe Spillman. I love to blame Joe. Joe's probably the one of the true unsung heroes of dirt track racing. If he's not helping, it's not because he didn't want to. And he did it for many years. And it's not that he's out of it. It's just he's spending time with family and work, and got to honor that and respect him for that, and kind of trying to enjoy life a little bit more. And he definitely stepped up to help out when Nick went on to bigger and better things. And I can't thank Nick enough. He's done for us for the many years that he was announcing there as well. And so little history there is, Barry Braun that's putting on the Bristol race and the Vegas race. Me and him do the Red River Mod Tour and have for the last couple of years. And so Nick originally was going to take time away from the mic and spend time with family, and told me that at the end of the year. And Fall Classic rolled around, told me he got offered a job and refused, and I can't fault the man, So it's something he does a good job at, and he'll pop in from time to time as well. So that's good. Yeah. And we got Race on Texas for the opening night. So for those that can't be there, they can definitely tune in and get some great racing action and listen to you and Joe on the mic.
Yes, sir. Going to be good. And that's usually the way it works out. I've been stepping away from this for several years, and my schedule just gets more full. So anyway, but it's all good. It is all good. Looking forward to it, man. It's going to be exciting. We'll see you Friday. I think weather's going to shake out. I think it's going to be a great weekend. Let's have some fun and get the 55th year kicked off in great fashion.
Absolutely. We did shift. We didn't have our just in tune over the weekend because of weather. And
Yeah.
so we are still scheduled on Wednesday night, this Wednesday
Perfect.
night. So we've got a lot of racers that want some track time, and we've got some junior limiteds that want some track time. So from probably 6 to 9 or 6 to 10.
Okay.
We'll give them as much time third as they can handle, and then we'll work on the track a little bit on Thursday, and then we'll kick off Friday and kick off our 55th year, and hopefully it's a great one.
Yep, I'm sure it will be. All right, man. Thanks for the time. We'll promote the heck out of it, and we'll see you in a few days.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for everything that y'all do.
You bet, man. Take care.
All right.
There he is, Selby Holder. Heart of Texas. And again, it was, as we were going there, Bobby, I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, they're in the perfect spot because you do. I mean, because we've talked about, with Johnny and Marianne and all these folks where it's like we're trying to with race dates. I mean, to figure out the dates. These guys race all the time. I mean, Heart of Texas races every week, and they still don't have enough dates. That's a damn good problem to have these days.
Yeah, especially it's any kind of promoter has a really good problem when he has to turn away groups that says they want to come race at your track. There's always something happening. The sprint car races, when I used to drive up, live in the Metroplex, and still came down to the South Texas headquarters down here.
Yeah,
there was always the sprint car stuff. Had people lined up on the side of the road. The grandstands were packed. The pits were packed. Everybody goes to Heart of Texas to watch the sprint cars. So those guys put on a hell of a show at Heart of Texas. But the best thing about Heart of Texas is all that construction is now done.
Yeah. Finally.
Right there in front of the racetrack.
Finally.
So, so it's finally done. Finally, if it hadn't been a Heart of Texas in a long time, this is the time to go just because of the fact that there's no construction.
And it really is. I mean, it's one of those destination spots where people do want to go race there. I mean, it doesn't matter the class. I mean, you want to get there and you want to turn a lap or two on the famed track, and they've done. I mean, I'm looking forward to. I mean, like you said, I mean, with those high banks there with that quarter mile, I mean, it always produces such great action. Doesn't matter the class. I mean, the late models and all that. That's really good, and it is a very, very impressive schedule. I mean, you go and you look at everything that they have on tap, and man, it's a little bit of everything, and it's going to be, barring any stoppages, it is going to be one fantastic ass race season out there.
Yeah, it's going to be, and I like what he talked about. There was a reason, and he put it in a great perspective about the fan counts being so high, and I think it's truly because of the fact he talked about it. There's no dance halls open,
right?
There's no bars open. There's no movie theaters open. It goes back to like when it was years ago when the only thing to do in Waco on a Friday night was to go to Heart of Texas Speedway. And I think now is going to show that. Hopefully they don't get any issues with the local authorities about having super spreader events and stuff like that. But hopefully all that's going to be behind us. And I guess in 2020, the good news, in 2020, it was, try to have a place as fast as you could get it back open and get it open safely. Hopefully the 2021, everybody starts lightening up a little bit and able to continue to race the whole year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know that they have done a lot of things there. I mean, for social distancing, I mean, all of that they've done a lot behind the scenes. Quickly before we cut out of here, when we were talking to Donnie Wilson about sportsmen and outlaw stocks and all that. So Showtime Speedway, I saw, George Gorham won $10,000 this past, I guess it was Saturday, they're doing a Triple Crown over there. I was looking at their Facebook page right before we came on the air, and the promoter was on, and nobody's going to win the Triple Crown. I mean, there's no way for it to happen, but he did say, $10,000 to win coming up on Saturday for round 3, but he also said that any of the first, second, or third top 3 qualifiers, if they elect to go to the back in this final round of the Triple Crown there at Showtime, they will get, if they go to the back and win, they get an additional $10,000. So there's going to be some big money on the line over at Showtime, but got to be 22 cars. Got to be 22 cars in that field. So pretty smart move there by the promoter there, and that's the things. I mean, that's creative promoting, and I really liked that right before this promoter went on the air, he took a big old swig of Bud Light and then offered up $20,000. That's how you run the racetrack, right there.
That's how you run the racetrack. Hell, that's how we run half these shows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these shows run on beer like that, but really good program right there, or right here. I mean, I like the you've got the team owner, Donnie Wilson, probably, arguably one of the best, I mean, not arguably, I mean, arguably one of the best, super late model short track teams, pro late models. I mean, just what a escalation we have watched there with what he's doing. And then we talked to Selby Holder there with Heart of Texas. I mean, that is great racetrack, man. It's a great racetrack, and this is going to be a huge, huge, huge busy weekend.
Yeah, no, definitely going to be a good way to kick off the season too. When you have the Memorial race there on Friday night, and then you got the big enduro, like you said, that allows guys to kind of go run at Kennedale if they want to that night and stuff like that. So even up north, the tracks are working together. We didn't get a chance to talk to them about how important it is for the tracks to work together. As we've said, Waco's in a unique position because of the fact they run on Friday nights, and the only other track that runs Friday night, at least as far as for IMCA sanctioning up there, is in Boyd Raceway, just north of Texas Motor Speedway. So that bodes well for them to kind of have their own testing and tuning stuff and ready for that. So that will be a dropped a pin down here
and
live radio. Yeah.
And I think it's great what they're doing there with the modifieds. I mean, because obviously we've seen the modified car counts have dwindled down. If it's not a real big to pay to win thing, and I like what they're doing there with North and South, where they're alternating there just a little bit, and where Dirt's in a really good spot is that you do have, with the limited modifieds or sport mods, whatever you want to call them, and the factory stocks and the iStocks, you've got all of that where, kind of on the asphalt side, if you have a class that struggles, you're in a little bit of a pickle there because there's not anything to pick it up. But if you don't have modifieds on a certain night, I mean, hell, South Texas never ran them, it seemed like. And they had good car counts and good pit counts and so forth. But this is really good to kind of tie the modifieds back in, because I just think that they are so important. I think they're so important in dirt track racing, because that adrenaline rush of those fire-breathing things coming out. I mean, that is such a – I didn't mean to make the fire joke after the 37 thing, but it man, when those cars come out and you get 15 to 20 of those, man, that is something really special with those big mods.
It really is, and I think that the Heart of Texas is in a good spot to alternate the big mods because of the fact that you have so many of the late models and the sprint cars that want to run there. You can alternate. One week you got the mods, and the next week you run the sprint cars. Then you bring the mods back. Then the next week you run the late models. And so I think it's a good mix of the schedule. Like they said, it's genius to front load the schedule. And make it hot and heavy for sprint cars and late models and stuff like that, because we know from announcing standpoints that those are the classes that draw the eyeballs, the fast cars. That's why we used to run the fast cars in the middle of the show, about 7 or 8 o'clock, about 8 or 9 o'clock to run the bigger cars. So that's the cars that people come to see. They don't, we love our eco stocks and we love the outlaws, but they really come to see the modifieds and the trucks. And so it's really good to actually have that nice and front loaded to get those guys to come back, because that's one of those promoter one-on-one things that you don't really think about. Yeah. But obviously Heart of Texas doesn't openly promote that. That's why they do it. But it's neat to know the reasoning behind the scheduling. And that's what we love to do on this show, is kind of pull back the curtain, as we say, real race talk.
Yeah. And all the while when you're doing that, I mean, it's those bigger classes that draw the people in. And, oh, by the way, they really fall in love with the outlaw street stocks or the iStocks or whatever it is. And if you do have a night that's maybe not quite so top heavy, I mean, they will come back. I mean, because that's where they get tied into their local heroes, whatever you want to call them. So again, the weekend, you've got Heart of Texas, you've got the regular, the Bagby Memorial. It's going to be on Friday night. The Big Chill 250 on Saturday. Then at 105, you've got the USMTS Spring Nationals, and that's going to be a fantastic show. We haven't talked about it a lot up to this point, Bobby. You mentioned it, but I mean, you're going to have a pit load of cars in Edna as well for Owen and the group over there in Edna. I mean, what a weekend! Edna's going to be huge. Edna's going to be massive on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward. I may end up making that trip down there myself to watch the race. And if there's anything that, like the Clash ended up, going to be a really good night down there at Texana. So all in all, it's going to be good. In terms of having the kickoff on Friday night, you've got the kickoff at Hot. You've got the USATS kicking off at RPM Raceway. Then they go to Greenville the next night and kind of come through there, which the tracks are 45 minutes apart up there for the doubleheader for the Spring Nationals there up in North Texas. And then you've got Owen down there running. Race season is here, folks, and it is time to go race, and it's time to have a damn good time, and we look forward to it for the rest of the 2021 season.
It's probably a fair assessment that one of those tracks, maybe all of them, or at least a few of them, somebody may say,
I wasn't going to wreck him, but I got to him and he turned him around. So didn't mean to really turn around, meant to rattle his cage over.
So we may hear that. We may hear that at the end of it, but it's going to be a fantastic weekend. Thanks to Donnie Wilson for checking in. Thanks to Selby Holder. Get out to one of those racetracks and watch that action. And if you can't do it, search the streaming options and do it that way too, man. A lot of these is just as good as being at the racetrack. And again, guys, your PSA, guys, ladies, don't skimp on the safety. That shit keeps your ass safe, right?
As far as we know, yeah. Don't forget to subscribe on Facebook and YouTube. You can hear us live whenever you want to. Hit the little bell button at the bottom of the screen to subscribe to the Facebook page. Also, you can get the notifications here every time if you want to get notified every time we go live. If you're one of the newer listeners, don't forget to do that. But another fun-filled Monday, and can't wait for racing season to get here. We're going to have lots and lots of stuff to talk about next week. I'm almost guaranteed of that.
Show Me the Money Series, Alabama 200 as well on the asphalt side. That is going to be one really, really good race over at Montgomery. Hey, the Saturday show is back, 11 to noon on the Horn. Check that out. We'll talk NASCAR. We'll break down the NASCAR weekend. Bobby, stay safe, my man. Hope you enjoy the rest of your duties here this evening down at the South office.
Yeah, down at the South office. I got to handle that honey-do list. Got to move some furniture. Got to take the dogs to the in-laws. Got a lot of stuff to do before the night's over. So we'll have to make it work somehow, some way.
Absolutely. For Bobby, I'm Rodney. We'll catch you next time. It is hashtag Real Race Talk from Texas. This is the Revved Up Sports Show.
I feel fine. The A-car obviously just ran out of talent. Seems like you can win a couple Xfinity championships and still stick your head where the sun don't shine when time comes right.
All right.
How'd your Texas World deal go?